let's build some shelves.
My wife and I grew up in the suburbs of Northeast Ohio, and we started our family there too. Then a few years ago, we stumbled into this dilapidated estate property that just had way too much potential to pass up. Follow along as we DIY our way through creating our dream estate, one project at a time. A wise man once said, "You're from the city, but you like hillbilly things." You're a CityBilly.
So I don't know what your idea of a fun family Saturday looks like, but around here, it looks like emptying out this utility room in our basement. Now we could spend the day continuing to work on building my workshop, or Mrs. CityBilly's giant walk-in closet, or any of the other projects that we've already started. Or we could start yet another new project that will take years to finish.
Great idea, Dad.
The original owners of this house used to run a business out of the lower level. In addition to the furnace, this room used to house the switchboard for all the phones. We're in the very early stages of turning this area into an in-law suite. Mrs. CityBilly started organizing a bunch of stuff in what will eventually be the attached bathroom. Some of that stuff got donated, some got thrown away, and the rest needs to find a new home in the house somewhere.
Like here. So the plan for today is we're going to build some super simple, super sturdy shelves to store stuff until we decide to get rid of it later. Now these shelves are not fancy or pretty, but they're functional, easy, and perfect for a storage closet or utility room. Now I'm going to use a miter saw and a table saw for this project, but you could get away with just a circular saw if that's all you have.
The other tools we're using are a stud finder, a level, a drill, and an impact driver. The materials we're using for this project are 2x2 studs, 1/2-inch plywood, and construction screws. We'll also need a couple 2x3s for the vertical supports. The reason I'm using 2x2s is we're not storing super heavy items on these shelves. They'll still be plenty sturdy, but most of what we're storing are games and puzzles. If you want to beef up your shelves, you could swap out the 2x2s for 2x3s or 2x4s. We also happen to have a bunch of 2x2 material left over from our workbench build, and this was a perfect project to use them up. Now, if you have to go to the hardware store to get your 2x2s, be prepared that I don't think a single straight 2x2 board exists. Pick out the straightest ones you can find, but if there's some curves in the boards, we'll be able to straighten them out as the shelves come together. So the size of the shelves is going to be determined by the amount of space you have to work with. I found it easiest to make the shelf depth either 12 or 24 inches, so you can divide a sheet of 4x8 plywood evenly with no waste. For a room this size, 12 inches deep is perfect.
So I've got my two helpers with me today, and we're going to start by cutting these 2x2s to the width of the shelves. Now a 2x2 is actually 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. So if the total depth of the shelf is 12 inches, and we have 1.5 inch piece on the front and the back, how long do the stretcher pieces need to be? Anyone?
Is it a question?
Yes!
Oh,
72?
72?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Thought it was 2 times 2 times 1.5 times 12.
What an idiot.
I'm going to give you a second to think about it while I read that again.
Okay.
All right. So if the total depth of the shelf is 12 inches, and we have 1.5 inch piece on the front and the back, how long do the stretcher pieces need to be?
8 inches?
18?
18?
Wrong!
8.
Wrong again, idiot.
All right, let's think about this. 12 inches
Yeah.
minus 1.5 inches
Is 10 and a half.
10.5 minus another 1.5 inches.
9.
9.
No, 8.
You're wrong.
No, it's 9.
10.5 minus 1.5 is 8.
Wrong-o.
Wait, I'm stupid.
Duh.
All right, so what is it?
9.
Bingo.
So what we're gonna do is we need to cut a bunch of stretcher pieces, all the exact same length,
9 inches.
9 inches. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set up a stop block, which is this, at 9 inches from the blade, so that we can make repeatable cuts over and over and over again super fast.
Once all the stretchers were cut, we cut the front and back pieces. We needed a total of 10 36-inch boards.
So these are all of our fronts and backs of the shelves. So we're gonna mark out on here where all the stretchers are gonna go. So there's gonna be a stretcher on either end of each one.
Also,
And-
what exactly is a stretcher?
Those pieces, those not the ones that go this way. So we'll mark off 1.5 inches. Go ahead and make a mark there. Good. We'll take the speed square. All right, so we're gonna drill pilot holes in the fronts and backs of all the shelves. These are all the fronts and backs. So wherever there's a stretcher, we're gonna do 2 pilot holes for screws. The reason we're doing pilot holes is it makes it easier to screw in, and it also makes it less likely that these boards are gonna split. So we're gonna use the drill with an 1/8 inch drill bit, and we're gonna drill 2 pilot holes in each board. All right, so now we've got all our pilot holes drilled. We put some screws halfway in so they're ready to go, and now we're going to lay out and install our stretcher pieces. So we'll lay this like this. We'll lay this like this. We'll take 4 stretcher pieces and we'll lay them out like that.
I used some small clamps to hold everything in place while we drove in the screws. Then it was time to cut up some plywood for the shelf tops. I cut this 4x8 sheet down to 6 feet long, then ripped it into 12-inch strips. Then we cut those strips in half so they were all 12 inches by 36 inches. Then we attached the tops with 1.25 inch construction screws. I put 1 screw in the corner, then lined up the frame with the opposite corner to make sure the frame was square. Before attaching the shelves to the wall, I used the stud finder to locate and mark the wall studs. We have a couple plastic storage bins that we wanted to fit underneath the lowest shelf, so I used one as a reference. I used 3.5 inch construction screws to attach the shelves to the wall. Once I got 1 screw in, I used a level to make sure each shelf was perfectly flat from side to side. It's important to put the level all the way in the back since that's the part we're leveling. We'll level front to back when we put the vertical supports on. The last step in the construction process was attaching 2x3s to the front of the shelves. I measured from the floor to the top of the highest shelf to get the length of the vertical supports. Then I attached each shelf to the 2x3s. I made sure each shelf was level from front to back before I attached the screws. Then Mrs. CityBilly added some paint and loaded up the shelves. So up until a few days ago, I didn't even know this project was on my list, but I can cross it off anyway. Now I'm going to go try to finish one of the other projects I've got going on before I start anything else new. We'll see how long that lasts. We'll see you soon.